Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from AlexMercedCoder.dev, and today what I want to talk about is random numbers. So this is like the JavaScript random numbers masterclass, basically for those people who are just still having they're not quite sure how to do random numbers, because it's not like Python where you have like a random function, actually a whole library just built into the language on how to generate random numbers. All we get is math.random, and we kind of have to work with it from there. So let's kind of go through that. So I'm going to make a new file, random.js. And let's just talk about this math object. So there's this math object that's built into JavaScript that has a bunch of different math functions. So you see like there's just a bunch of functions to do all sorts of different math stuff. It's been a while since I've done any kind of calculus or algebra 2 or anything like that. So a lot of this is kind of, but the important thing here is we have random. Okay, and what random does is that it's going to return a number between 0 and 1. So let's console log that so you can see what I mean. Okay, so let's console log the result of math.random. Okay, let's do this like a whole bunch of times so you can see it. Okay, and let's run the file. So let's see here, node random.js. And as we see here, see the random number is always between 0 and 1. Okay, the problem is it's like, okay, well, a lot of my use cases need a whole number. Okay, so what you can do to get a whole number is you say, okay, what is the maximum number you want? So let's say I want a number up to 10. Well, what you do is you multiply whatever the random generates by that number, by that upper range. So we'll say times 10. Okay, and I'll just do this. Okay, now watch what happens. Okay, so that works. Now we're getting numbers that are in our range of 0 through 10. The problem being, though, is like you still get these like sort of like these remainders, like these decimals. Maybe you want a whole number. Well, fortunately, like there is a function built into math that allows you to round down. So usually you would use math.floor. Unless you wanted to round up, then you can use math.ceil. Okay, but essentially what I'm going to do here is by passing the result of this to math.floor, floor is going to then round down these numbers. So now let me just paste those in there. Okay, now if we run the file now, okay, so that's fundamentally how you generate a random number. Okay, so, if you're planning to use a lot of random numbers, like you're making a browser game or a console game or just something that uses a lot of random numbers, you might just want to like make this a function real quick. So the way you would do that is you could just sit there and say const random number equals, and then we'll just make it an arrow function, like what's the max number up to, and then it's going to return math.floor, math.random times your max. Okay, and now I don't have to like type all that anymore. Now I can just type in random number, console.log, random number. Okay. Oh, see, I did something wrong. Okay, I'm getting not a number. So that means I'm missing somewhere in my logic. So let's see here, math.floor, it's passed the result of math. Oh, I didn't pass an argument. That's what happened. Max is undefined. So let's try this out. Let's make it 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. So random number up to 5. Okay, and there we go. Okay, it'll never be 5. So if I really wanted a number 0 through 5, I would say 6 because it rounds down. But yeah, that's cool. But what if you wanted a random number within a range? Okay, const. What we could do is we could use our random number function, because why repeat the same logic again? Random range, and then we'll just say min max. And what we would do is we would return random number, but except the random number will take the max and divide it by 2. Okay, the reason being is that way the highest number you'll ever get from the random number is half of your max. Okay, the reason being is what we're going to do is we then add your max to the result of that, or add your minimum to the result of that. Or actually, wait, let me think about that for a second. Add your minimum to that, so that way it's always at least that number. So let's say you ended up with 0, you would at least add your minimum to it. So technically, actually, we would want to do max minus the minimum as the number range. So that should do it. Okay. And let's try that out. Okay, so let's say console.log, the result of random range. And we'll just say between 5 and 10. So I should always get numbers between 5 and 10 if I did that right. Okay, yep, see they're always between 5 and 10. The reason being is that, okay, if I say random number, 10 minus 5, well, that means it's going to give me a number between 0 and 5, and then we add the 5 to it. So that way if I had like a number 1, I'd get 6, which is what happened here. If I ended up getting 0, it'd be 5. So essentially, yeah, that's kind of how you do it. So now we have that number. Cool. Now, what other functions can we use? So again, the idea is like once you build one function, the idea here is also to show you that you can reuse function definitions. So if you make a function that does one piece, you don't have to create like a separate function that repeats the entire logic every time. So as you see here, I'm like making these composable functions by starting with like one piece of logic and then using it to build another function, another function, another function, and now I end up with a lot of functions that have lots of different use cases. But the other issue people always run into is like random item from an array. Okay, so const random from an array. Okay, so generally the idea is you want to generate a random index. So in this case, we're starting with the array. Okay, and the idea is we want to return an item that has a certain index. And that index should be a random number, anywhere between 0 and the array's length. And then that's it. Okay, because we already know how to generate a random number, and we just take the array's length, because that's going to be our range, and then we just pass the result of this calculation as an index, and we return the value. So for example, if I wanted a random item from this array, so const my array equals cheese, hello, what, see, then I can use random array, console.log, random array, then we're passing in my R. And we can see like on different calls to this, we should get different results. What? Cheese, see. Okay, so you're starting to see like how we can, once we understand that fundamental setup for random, we can quickly just build out all like the kind of random functions we would need for different scenarios. Okay, and I'm trying to think, do you need anything else? I mean, that would be pretty much it. Like, I mean, if you really want to go like fancy, we could create one for an object that pulls like a random property from an object. Const random object. But I would just use the random array. So how would I do that? What I would do is we would pass in the object. So that's a little arrow function. But what we would return is we would take, we would just return something from a random array. So he's like, wait a second, but I thought it's an object. But what we can do is we can take that object, and I think it's like object.keys, or let me think about that, object dot, oh, here we go, object.keys, so this will create an array of keys, okay, and we'll get a random key from that, and then what we'll do is we will return obj, whatever that key is. So we're going to pass that key as a dynamic key, so we're going to use the square brackets, because that's how we can pass a string as a key to the object, and then that'll grab a random item from the object. Okay, so if I were to sit there and create an object called const my obj, and say equals name Alex Merced, age 37, don't website, AlexMercedCoder.dev. Okay, so that's my object, and we were to try this like console.log random object, passing in my obj. Let's see if that works. Undefined, undefined, undefined. Okay, so I made some mistake somewhere. Okay, so let's go back and take a look. Okay, so the idea is I'm saying return the object, which is my object, with the key. Okay, and then we're passing in object. Oh, object.keys as a function, so I should call the function. That would be helpful, and I should pass it the object whose array of keys I want. Okay, so that should fix it. So let's try that out. And there we go. So you see, like, randomly grabs different properties from my keys, because what happens is that I'm generating an array of my object's key values. Then it's going to generate grab a random value from that array, return it, and then I'm basically going to be accessing the object from that key and returning that particular key's value. So again, we're all just still using that random, all coming from that random number. So you can just build on it as you build out these pieces. So hopefully this gives you an idea of how you can use like random numbers, okay, and so forth. So my name is Alex Merced. Have a great day and enjoy. Yeah, I mean, you could also build like a shuffle function, but I'm not going to go into that here. This is not really, that's not really purely in the theme of this video. So, but yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. See y'all later.